Hello everyone, and welcome to Durrett's Take. Let's get started. Let's get started with the new top 25 college football rankings that came out recently. Let's get started on that. So the top 5 didn't change with Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3, 4, Ohio State, and Texas A&M 5. Now a lot of people were concerned about would Ohio State potentially move down with their game being canceled from last week. And it turns out it didn't affect them as of right now, as they stayed at 4. So for me, here's my thing. So you usually, not this year, but usually you play a 12-game regular season schedule. And usually, when you get to the halfway mark of the season, usually you can kind of tell based off the eye tests and stuff, oh, okay, we kind of know what this team is and that team is. So in my opinion, if Ohio State can play 6 games, then they can, not will, but they can be in discussion for top 4. If they don't, in my opinion, they should be automatically disqualified. It's the reason why the Pac-12 is definitely not going to make the playoffs this year, is because they're just not enough sample size, not enough games, and they need more. Especially as Ohio State is not the same as last year, where they're just so dominant. Offensively, yeah, Ohio State's still good, but defensively, they're obviously not dominant. So that's my opinion there. So for right now, Ohio State can stay 4, but maybe later on I'll change. Some change in the top 10, of course. Cincinnati State put Georgia moved up 1 spot to 8th. I must say Georgia, they only have 4 more game left, but they look a lot better with JT Daniels as their quarterback now. They look like a completely different team, and they actually look like a top 10 team with him as quarterback. Now they're playing easy opponents, and it's kind of a little too late, but for right now they can remain in top 10. Iowa State moves up to 9th. Have some issues there. I like how they now on their head and it bumps Iowa State past Oklahoma, since they have the same amount of losses. The head should be honored there, like it is for Florida and Texas A&M. But in my opinion, they should not be a top 10. With the loss against Louisiana, like I mentioned last week by 17, they should not be a top 10 team. Now, if they go on to win the Big 12 title, yes, they could be in the top 10. They would deserve it at that point. But as of right now, they do not deserve it. Especially since they beat a Texas team where it was a ranked team, but now they're not. So who knows how good that one was. And then Miami is the 10, and that's fine for right now. Oklahoma's and Indiana State put where they are, fine. BYU is at 13 now. Northwestern falling to 14. Oklahoma State moves up to 15. So I already talked about last week my beef with OU in front of BYU and so on. So as we see, the committee didn't listen to the outrage from all the college football analysts and stuff. So they're still going to stay consistent with their weak excuses for why BYU should be where they are, which means BYU needs help. And unfortunately, they're not getting scheduled games as of right now because no one wants to play them. So that means BYU is going to need a lot of help. The team's about to lose. Now, this help can actually come, and it can actually be enough to get them in. Here's why. So 12 Indiana will play 16 Wisconsin this week. Oh, and Indiana's without their starting quarterback as he tore his ACLs out for the year. It sounds like Wisconsin's going to win that game. I'd be shocked if Indiana wins that game, let alone wins. If Indiana goes out to win the rest of their games, I'd be completely shocked. So I don't see that happen. So therefore, Indiana will have at least one loss and they'll fall behind BYU. And then Oklahoma and Iowa State will play each other most likely, assuming they both can beat West Virginia. They will play each other in the Big 12 Championship game, which means the loser with 3 losses will fall behind BYU. So they can move up another spot to 11. And then if Oklahoma or Iowa State, if one of them loses to West Virginia, then it'll be Oklahoma State facing either Oklahoma or Iowa State, depending on who beats West Virginia. And again, loser will be out of the picture, and the winner will obviously be above BYU at this point as of what it looks like. But that's fine, in my opinion. And then who knows? Miami gets an easy one against Duke this week, but next week, for close of the regular season, they play North Carolina. North Carolina could upset them. That's potential upset alert there. And then Cincinnati, they faced 24 Tulsa twice. Nah, I think they're definitely gonna beat them once, but can they beat them twice in a row? I mean, it's not explosive offensively. Their defense is no joke. They can maybe cause some Cincinnati to potentially get an upset there. And if Cincinnati loses one game, I mean, then there's debate on whether they belong in your sixth bowl. Now, I feel like even with one loss, they still could. Well, obviously, if the loss is in the conference championship game, then they're not. But if it was a regular season loss and then they avenge that loss in the conference championship game, they could still be in the New Year's Six bowl game because they get the automatic G5 bid. Although Coastal Carolina will have something to say about that. But they would basically fall behind BYU in the rankings, so BYU moves up in their spot there. So basically, the best case scenario is BYU moves up all the way to 7th, in my opinion. And then the worst case scenario, they only move up to 11 or 10. Now, would that be enough to get the New Year's Six nod? It depends. According to my prediction, being 10th would barely get them in. So again, that means this fall have to happen. The 2, the 3 are automatic with Indiana losing, and whoever loses the Big 12 title game will be out of the picture. So now if you're a BYU fan, you have to hope for either Miami losing, Cincinnati losing, or Iowa State/OU loses to West Virginia before the Big 12 title game. So it's possible. So Northwestern falling to 14th, I'm fine with because there's not a lot of better options to put in front of them right now. Oklahoma State at 15 was a surprise, but because they only won by touchdown against a bad Texas Tech team, but I'm fine with that as long as they stay there. Now moving on to 16-20, Wisconsin stayed put. I'm fine with that. They'll get their chance to either move up or move down this week. North Carolina moves up 2 spots. Now that is probably my biggest beef with the committee this week, based off this week's rankings. Now, I know Notre Dame's a second-ranked team, and North Carolina, at least the first time, gave them a really good fight. But with a bunch of teams having either 0, 1, or 2 losses, you're still not only leaving the 3-loss team in there, but you move them 2 spots up over other deserving teams. That is called Power 5 or ACC bias or whatever you want to call that. Is messed up. That should not happen. Now, actually, I think North Carolina will still be top 25 by the season, but it'll be more like a 20 or under, not 17. Like, that's just too high. So Coastal Carolina's 18 again. I thought they should move a little bit higher, but well, they'll get a chance to get a good, impressive win against the Liberty team, who is so close to being undefeated as of right now. Iowa got a big jump. A little bit weird, but fine. Then USC, I'm fine with them slipping a bit because they didn't get to play last week, but they just haven't played enough games. Like I said, the Pac-12 is at a very big disadvantage. They're not playing a lot of games. Now for the Final 5. So Marshall stayed put, fine. Washington is now in. I also think they have a soft 3-0 record like UFC, but based off what I saw, they deserve to be in top 25. Oregon filled at 23, and honestly, I feel they should be out of the top 25, and they should have to beat Washington in order to get back in, just because that was a bad loss to Oregon State, but I mean, whatever. Tulsa moves up 24, fine, and then, as I mentioned, Louisiana is now in the ranking at 25, which I'm actually fine with because they beat 9th-ranked Iowa State by 3 possessions and lost to 18th Coastal Carolina by just a field goal, so they deserve to be in there as of right now. And as far as teams that could potentially sneak in next week, I feel like Texas should have still remained maybe like a 24-25 or something. I feel like they're a better 3-loss team as a North Carolina because North Carolina lost to 2 teams with losing records and Texas hasn't. So say what you will there. Also, like I said, if Liberty gets the win against Coastal Carolina this weekend, they're, in my opinion, even with loss, are going to get into the top 25. And then also watch out for a sneaky team like from the MAC in Buffalo, looking like the best MAC team out there, and they could potentially get some love in next week and get in the top 25. We'll see there. And those are basically my thoughts. So to kind of summarize up, BYU, despite the committee treating them bad, can potentially move up, and I don't like the North Carolina move up 2 spots. Okay, so now to go over my top 10 NFL teams from this past week. Now I know Pittsburgh and Baltimore hasn't played yet. That counts as this week, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I'm going to have Pittsburgh remaining at 1, 10-0. I'm going to have Kansas City remaining at 2 at 10-1. New Orleans are remaining at 3 with 92, which is what a lot of people have. I mean, some people flip flop Pittsburgh, Kansas City is number 1, number 2, but like that's the unanimous top 3 in whatever order for a lot of people, which shouldn't come as a surprise. Number 4, I'm gonna go with the Tennessee Titans, and here's why. They can run the ball excellently. They're the best running back in football, which helps. Get out have a run game. They can also, when they do run effectively, then they're also very effective in the play action game. Now their defense is suspect, but again situationally, they're good enough to where they can get a stop if they need to. And I just feel like they're going to be there's more of a team that are going to be a threat in the playoffs. Like there's some teams like Las Vegas who just gets to the playoffs as accomplishment. For Tennessee, their goal should be to get back to the AFC Championship game. And then 5, I got Buffalo at 8-3 also. Obviously, Tennessee beat Buffalo, so they get the benefit head-to-head matchup there. But I'm like what I'm seeing for Buffalo recently. Again, they should be 9-2 if it wasn't for that Hail Mary loss to Arizona. So I like what I'm seeing for Buffalo, both offensively and defensively, especially offensively, though. 6, I got Seattle. Now, a lot of people have Seattle now in their top 5, but I just can't put Seattle in my top 5 right now because of their loss to Buffalo, which was their worst loss of the season. Now, at the end of it, if Seattle's going to have more wins than Buffalo, then, of course, I'd put Seattle above despite the head-to-head because Seattle's more wins. But as of right now, with both the same record, I have to honor head-to-head. So Buffalo's 5 and Seattle 6. And I like what Seattle's doing. They've gotten better defensively, which is a good sign for them. And I feel like they're peaking at the right time now, where they're going to be a real threat in the playoffs. 7, I got Green Bay at 8-3. Again, I'm not like against the very good teams, they're not that great, but against all the other teams, they can beat up on them pretty easily and do just fine. 8, I got the LA Rams at 7-4. I know what happened last week, but let's face it, that's their kryptonite. Other than their kryptonite, they've only have 2 other losses, and one was a game that they should have won if it wasn't for the refs helping them out. So I like what I'm seeing for the Rams. I still have confidence that they are the second or third best NFC team. They could potentially make noise in the playoffs. 9, I got Indianapolis at 7-4. Again, they've beat the Packers. They've beaten Tennessee, so they have some solid wins under the belt, and they can do some things like they can. I feel like they have a lot of good weapons for Philip Rivers to throw to. They have a good offensive line. I like what I see from them defensively. But their problem is they're just a little bit inconsistent. So that's why they're not higher than what they could be. And then 10th, I got Tampa Bay at 7-5. I know they have 5 losses. But the reason why they still deserve to be in the top 10 is because A, they're going to win the rest of their games. So they're going to finish 11-5, which means 11-5 is basically a top 10 team, in my opinion. They have some impressive wins again against Green Bay and stuff. I feel like they're going to potentially make some noise in the playoffs as well. So those are my top 10. I got Pittsburgh 1, Kansas City 2, New Orleans 3, Tennessee 4, Buffalo 5, Seattle 6, Green Bay 7, LA Rams 8th, Indianapolis 9, and Tampa Bay 10th. So thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel and tell everyone about me. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful day.